Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another NFL Draft podcast. I'm joined with my father, Tony, today. Say hello to everyone, Tony.
Hello, everyone.
And we are coming to you with 10 day 3 sleepers or day 3 picks, however you want to quantify it. These are guys who we expect to go on day 3 of the NFL Draft and have an impact for their team in some way. I am doing 2 offense and 3 defense. Well, my father is doing 3 offense and 2 defense. Next week, we're coming back with the first 3 rounds, pretty much, talking about guys who maybe don't get as much respect or just guys we just flat out love, and we'll be swapping the order then. But for this week, we have 10 guys, and my father's kicking off with his first offensive guy. Who is your first?
I'm going to start off with Juice Scruggs out of Penn State. You didn't give me a player position profile, so I figured I'd just go off with this. He's been a center at Penn State for the last 2 seasons, 6'3", 302 pounds, and he did really well at the combine. He had 29 on the bench, 5.22 40-yard dash, which isn't all that great, but he is an offensive lineman and a center to boot. So, but surprisingly, he had a 1.79 10-yard split, and a 4.82 20-yard shuttle. So he's inside, in the capacity with which he's going to be doing, he's quite effective. He's got really good strength and really strong hands. So when he does get a hold of the defender, he can push him back. He is a pass blocking center more so than a run blocking center. He's doesn't give up hardly anything on so far as pressures. He gets off the snap well. He does need to work on his footwork at the next level. I think that's what they're going to focus on with him. But he's a smart player, and he does receive coaching really, really well. When I've watched him play, and I'm going to reference specifically the Michigan game because if anybody watched Michigan versus Penn State this past year, Michigan's defense was just all over them. And what you'll notice about Juice is that even when he's not engaged with a blocker, he is keeping his head on a swivel to see where another defender is going to be coming from. So he's got great awareness in the pocket. In comparison to another center that's coming out this year that's probably more well-known, and he's going to go higher in the draft, he's got super comparable measurements to Luke Whippler. He was better in the 10-yard split, better in the bench and the vertical jump, not quite as proficient in like the 40-yard dash. I think Whippler was 5.14. So, I mean, you can't even sneeze that quick. So they're pretty comparable that way. And everything else is pretty much right on. So I think that he's going to go probably in the 4th, maybe in the 5th, just depending on if there's a rush on centers. There are quite a few centers in this draft, but a lot of teams need centers. So I think he'll be close to the bottom of that rush, but whoever gets him is going to get a guy that is going to be a darn good starter moving forward.
So based off what you said, what's a team that you think would fit him the best?
Like I said, he's a really, really good pass blocker. So, teams that need a center, I would say somebody like Dallas. Dallas could look at him. We don't know how much longer Fredericks is going to be there. Teams
Who?
like that.
Wait, who?
Isn't it Travis Fredericks?
He retired years ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah, see? So there's my one bungle. But he's really good in the pass game. So teams that need it, play action pass would be really good. So teams like the Jets, because the Jets don't have a current center.
How about Jacksonville?
Jacksonville would be another one that good. Cleveland would be another, although I think they might have re-signed Posick. I'm not 100% sure, but any team that's trying to do a lot of play action and passing, I think he's going to fit really well there.
Yep. Now I'm going to talk about my first offensive guy, and I'm going to a Group of 5 school at Old Dominion. Give me Zach Kuntz. Zach Kuntz was originally a 5-star commit to Penn State, but he decided to transfer to Old Dominion. Kuntz doesn't like always line up at the normal tight end position. He lines up at the other wide receiver positions, X, Y, Z, but noticeably he excelled in the slot, creating mismatches because the dude is 6'8". He's a big guy. And most notably, some of his best games came against, I think it was Virginia Tech or Virginia. Maybe it was both. I apologize for getting confused. And I know those weren't really like great teams last year. But it was noticeably different from the Power 5 to the Group of 5 schools he typically played. Now, 2022, he did have some injury issues, which may have him fall a bit in this draft. But that 2021 tape is some of the best athletic tight end tape you can see. But the problem is he is raw. And he is not a good run blocker. He's just not. You cannot rely on him to put his hand in the dirt and have him block. He's strong. Can he grow into it? Yes. All these guys that are going to be picked on the 27th, 28th, and 29th of April, all these guys can improve. They will all get better. Even if they won't make an NFL team, they'll still get better. Kuntz, though, reminds me of another former highly athletic tight end. Had a great career catching footballs, but couldn't block, Jimmy Graham. And I do think he's a more raw version of Jimmy Graham. Maybe more Jimmy Graham coming out of Miami, because I don't even think he played football in college, if I'm correct. Zach Kuntz is 6'8". He's a matchup nightmare. He can jump very well. He is quick. And RAS score, the best you can get is 10 on RAS. Do you know what he got on RAS, Tony?
Was it 10?
It was a perfect 10. 40-yard dash, 4.55. 20-yard split, 2.61. 10-yard split, 1.55. This is insane. And then you look at his shuttle time, 4.12. 3-cone, 6.87. Vertical, 40 inches. Broad, 10 and 1/8. That's insane numbers. This is a guy that you just take a shot on day 3, and if he hits, you're running to the bank cashing the check. Let's not also forget, he's 6'8". You can make use of him in the red zone if nothing else. And a team I think he could fit on, and there's a couple teams. I think Chicago would be a really good fit for him because you already have your run blocker in Cole Kmet, and you need weapons. I think you could look at him going to where another former, what the guy just compared him to, went to, the Saints. I think he'd be perfect for Derek Carr. Because Derek Carr had great success with Darren Waller. Not a tight end who's really great at run blocking, but gets open, gets the big plays, has a good catch radius. He's a very solid tight end. He does have stuff to work on, but he's a guy you take a shot on day 3 and can blossom into possibly an NFL starter, and with his athletic traits, maybe an all-pro if you get lucky enough.
It's not too shabby.
So who is your number 2 offensive player?
I'm going to sound like a homer, but I'm picking another Penn State kid. And that's a tight end to comp to your tight end is Brenton Strange.
Mind you, real quick, I'm the one who likes the Pennsylvania teams. Mine is Philadelphia. I'm Pittsburgh. He's Washington. He's on the West. I'm more East. So this is telling you, he sees something in that team.
I like a lot of the players on the team this year. One of them, not so much as you, but that's for another day. So anyway.
Next week, to be exact.
There you go. So Brenton Strange, 6'4", 253 pounds. Plays tight end. He's got 31 and an 1/8 inch arms and 9 and 5/8 inch hands. So, pretty good size hands for everything. In this draft class of tight ends, because everybody does say that this is the class for tight ends, they're not wrong. He's relatively under the radar, but he's super athletic and he blocks well. He doesn't have a lot of catches in the past year, but when you watch Penn State play, what you'll notice is he's usually kept in to block a lot, so they can, throw to Parker Washington or Tinsley.
My man, Parker Washington.
There you go. Their offense seems to be more focused around wide receivers, uh, and of course running the ball. Many teams in the NFL use a multi-tight end set where a tight end releases into the flat after chipping, and I think he would be perfect for this. So basically, any team that is running a sort of West Coast offense, or if you want to call it a Shanahan offense now, he's going to fit right into that. He's got good run after the catch ability. He actually tested out pretty well at the combine. 23 uh, reps on the bench, a 36-inch vertical, a 4.7 40, which isn't all that great, but for a tight end that's not going to be a mean pass catching tight end, I think it'll still work. He needs to work on blocking assignments, and what I mean by that is there are times when you're in the midst of the play and he basically blocks the wrong guy. So his assignment could be to pick up the interior defender and he goes to the outside, which will unfortunately leave, the running back or the receiver that he's blocking for open. But it's all coachable. I think that in the long run, he's going to be probably a day 5 pick. And I like it.
You
He's
mean
got a
round
lot of
5,
box.
correct?
Yes, round 5. Well, unless you get him in a day 5, and that's a pretty good. That'll be a pretty good one too.
He'd have to be UDFA, and I don't think that's
UDFA.
happening.
UDFA, no, it's not. It's not going to happen. So who do you have next?
I have Chris Rodriguez, the running back in Kentucky, and he is not a great athlete. Like, not saying he's a bad athlete. He's a very good athlete, but he's not like the athlete that blows you away. He only put a 7.71 in his RAS. The only thing he had that was actually considered elite was his 20-yard split at 2.59. Again, not the best athlete in this class, but what he is a hammer. When he hits that hole, he is going to bruise you up. He's not going to be the guy who breaks off 20-yard runs like they're nothing. But what he's going to do is make the next couple days after your game against him miserable. The best part of his game is short yard situation. He comes in, goal line, 3rd and 1, 3rd and inches, 2nd and 1, what have you, short yardage. He comes in there and he hits the hole and he bangs it and he pushes the ball forward and gets you the first down. He gets you in the end zone. He's not the every down back. He's a very specific role. But it's a very important role in the NFL. If your team can't get yardage on 3rd and short, 4th and short, 2nd and short, goal line, you're in trouble. And what the rumor is that this might be the last year of I don't know how to call it, but the new way to do the QB sneak, the Bush push version of it. I don't know what you want to call it. This could be the last year you can do it. So you're going to take advantage of that. But what are you going to do in 2024 when you can't do it anymore? You need a hammer. You need a rock. You need someone who's just going to run through the line, run through the defenders, and get in that. That's Chris Rodriguez. And the comp for him was very easy to me because it's another Kentucky running back, and that's Benny Snell. Benny Snell is used in a very similar way as I'm saying Chris Rodriguez. Short yard situation. Yes, they have Najee Harris, but sometimes you'll see Benny Snell come out there and pound the rock. But the thing that really makes Benny Snell set apart, and something I would like to see Chris Rodriguez go into, and this is important for every day 3 pick, I will say, special teams. Benny Snell is a Steeler today still because he is a great special teams player. Chris Rodriguez showed a lot of the same traits Benny Snell did. I believe their RAS score was close to identical. If he can get to that special teams role, he'll carve out himself a decent long career in the NFL. Because not only could he be useful in short yard situation, he's useful in special teams. When you're cutting down a 53-man roster, you want to save some spots. Short yardage and special teams player, that gets you a spot on an NFL team. And woo, the echo on that background. Woof. But that's pretty much it. And who is your third and final offensive player?
So my third and final is Charlie Jones, wide receiver. So, and not Penn State, but Purdue. He's 5'11".
Big Ten homer.
I know, right? They play a brand of football that I like. They like to run the ball a lot. But 5'11", 175 pounds, so on the smaller side. Ran a 4.3 40 with a 1.51 split. 36 and a half inch vertical. So at 5'11 with a 36 and a half inch vertical, he's still getting up there. 10-4 broad jump, 13 on the bench. The thing about him, and if you've not watched any games with him, you really need to, because he's always open. He's a 7'11. He's just always open. He, catches the ball really, really well. He's got great hands. He's a good route runner. The knock on him, I guess, would be in the NFL that if players body up on him, they might be able to blanket him. But he uses his hands really well to shed that before the catch. He's got really good speed. So this is the thing. My comp for him, if he was 2 inches taller and about 20 pounds heavier, it'd be Cooper Kupp. They both have a knack to get open at will. They both make acrobatic catches. They can both do punt and kick returns. He's an amazing receiver. And like I said, he's always open. Defenders can't run against him. I'm going to go back to another time, and Michigan had an amazing defense this year, but it's just one of those defenses that I liked to match up anybody I was looking at with because they were so good. And they're going to have players from that defense playing in the NFL. They still couldn't stop him. They got a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and that was one of the reasons why they weren't as effective. But he was still open, and he still had a pretty good day. And that's quite simply because he knows how to get open. Didn't matter who was covering him, he was open. And I really hope that the Seahawks take him in one of the later rounds. I think he could, learn a lot from Tyler Lockett, and I'm excited to see what he can do.
Doesn't he scream New England Patriot though?
You say that, but those guys are always, stockier. Welker probably wasn't super stocky, but their interior receivers, usually the guys are sending across the middle a lot, are 200 pounds, and 175 isn't 200. So,
yeah. Well, before I get into kicking out the defense, there's some breaking news. The Josh Harris Group has reached a preliminary agreement to buy the Washington Commanders from Daniel Snyder for $6.05 billion. That's from Adam Schefter. So it's official. Dan Snyder's out of the NFL. Washington fans rejoice. Hopefully they change the name. Did I pretty much hit the nail on the head? I think I did.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. Okay, now it's time to kick off defensive players. KJ Henry out of Clemson. And I know, KJ Henry is the Clemson defender no one is talking about. Now, Henry doesn't have the tape that Myles Murphy or Brian Brzee have, or even Trenton Simpson. But that doesn't matter. He's a solid prospect. I expect Henry to not take over the NFL, but I do think he can carve out a good role for him and have many contracts in the league as an early down edge type player. He's got the size and length you want in a typical edge player, but what sets him apart so well is his IQ and play recognition. He knows where plays are going. He has that just innate ability to know where the football is going to go. He's great at playing the run because of that. He doesn't get too aggressive. He doesn't weigh out certain spots. He's a very smart, cerebral player. The problem is with him in the long term is, can he get to the quarterback? Can he develop the ability to rush the passer? As of now, I would say no. That doesn't mean the right coach can't get in there, show him some stuff, but he just doesn't have the bend that you typically see. That being said, he's a very quick, athletic player, scoring elite on RAS in the 40-yard dash, 20-yard split, and 10-yard split, all showing he has potential for something there. So can you rely on him on third down and pass situations right now? No, that's the obvious answer. But what you can do is you can put him out there in an obvious running situation, or when your team's trailing and you know the other team's going to try and just grind out the clock. He's a perfect type of player to put out there and stuff the run. Now, a team I could see him doing very well at, I think the Saints would fit him very well. I think he can learn from Cameron Jordan, learn some pass rushing reps, get better there. I also think he could do very well under tutelage of Vic Fangio in Miami. Fangio can work with guys better than anyone almost, and he just has the ability to get certain players to a spot as an edge rusher that you just don't see coming. In the last spot, I would say I like seeing him in Carolina as a third edge almost, just like kind of a way to keep, I almost said Brian Brzee, but it's Brian Burns, fresh and healthy for the season, especially with them hiring Denver's former defensive coordinator. I'm blanking on his name now that I can pronounce. And Ejiro Evero.
Evero.
Thank you. I probably butchered that, but he comes from the Vic Fangio coaching tree. I think going to a Vic Fangio type system is best for KJ Henry in the long run. So, who is your first defensive player?
Well, since I started off with a center for my offensive player, I figured I'd better pair off and start with a nose tackle for my first defensive player. So I'm going with a big nose tackle. I'm going with Jared Clark out of Coastal Carolina. So anybody that doesn't know Jared Clark, he's a big man, weighing 634 pounds. He's 6'4". At the combine, he ran 5.25 40, a 1.82 split, 10-yard split, 27 and a half inch vertical, which for a guy that's 335 pounds, I think is pretty incredible. 4.83 on the 20-yard shuttle and a 7.6 on the 3-cone drill. What makes him special is he was a former tight end that decided that he wanted to transform into the defensive line, and he added weight. His senior year of high school, this is high school, okay? He had 26 touchdowns and 31 sacks. So he's been playing both sides of the ball and been playing on the D-line since high school. He's a wide body that has pretty good burst off of the snap of the ball. He can hold the position because he's huge, he's strong. He didn't do the bench at the combine, and I don't know why it just said choice, but when you're watching his tape, he does hold the point of attack really well. He does have limited pass rush. He's had 7.5 sacks in his college career, 18 tackles for loss and 2 pass breakups. So if he's not getting to the quarterback, he's at least aware enough to get his hand up and knock the ball down. If you paid any attention during the Senior Bowl, he was doing that a lot. He was batting the ball down a lot. So it might have been something that the coaching staff had recommended. He's going to be, 5th or 6th round, but he might not be a day one starter, but he's going to have a huge role, and he can work himself into that. He's got starting upside for sure.
Yep, so now it's time for me to talk about a raw prospect. But man, I can't quit my Duke players, man. I just can't. Something about them, I don't know why. Shaka Hayward, maybe a little raw, but for a day 3 pick, yes please. I'm not going to lie to you. He's not going to get much playing time his rookie year unless injuries hit the team at inside linebacker. But if he does play, here are what to look out for. His arm length is great at 34 inches. He is good at wrapping players up. He's a good arm tackler. And he should be with those long arms. He can wrap you up. Can't get free from a guy who got the wingspan of an NBA player. But he is raw, and the reason why I say it's raw is he's not as patient as you would like. He gets a little too jumpy. He doesn't stay in the passing lanes as well. He's not there yet. The one thing I will say I did like a lot is when you compare 2021 to 2022, he was noticeably more patient in the running game. He wasn't immediately going straight for the running back. He was waiting for the hole to open up. He was waiting to see how the play developed. And that could have been coaching saying, okay, you got to hit this hole fast or hard as possible. That could be the case. But when I watched him develop from year to year, I noticed it, and he was a much better, much more cerebral player, which is something you want the inside linebacker role. His elite RAS grade, and he's only good, but elite is his 40-yard dash, 20-yard split, 10-yard split. For his size, he is very, very athletic. He stands at 6'3" and 235 pounds with a 40-yard dash of 4.53, 20-yard split of 2.63, and 10-yard split of 1.54. all very good. Now, why do I think he is worth the day 3 pick? Because even if he doesn't become an inside linebacker, a starter, he already played special teams at Duke and did really, really good at it. According to PFF, he totaled 14 tackles on special teams last year. Now, he does have a long way to grow. I'm not disputing that. But you get him the right developmental coach that can work with him. A linebacker that is fast, athletic, has long arms, can work with it. I think he'd be a perfect fit for Brian Flores as a linebacker in Minnesota right now. Is that saying he's going to become a stud? I don't know. I'd love to see him become a stud, but the traits are there. He's athletic. He's long. He's got the length, and he has showed progression. But even if he doesn't become the starter, as I said, he has experience in special teams, which on day 3 is crucial to make an NFL roster. So who is your second and overall final day 3 sleeper on defense?
I'm glad you brought up special teams because my final pick, I think that's how he's going to carve out a niche on any team. But when you get him there, I think they're just going to see what all he can do, and he's gonna make a splash, and that's Marte Mapu, Sacramento State. Got to go a little Big Sky Conference at the end. So he is 6'3", 215 pounds. Was not invited to the combine, so he had a great Senior Bowl. Was fast. He's kind of an enigma in this draft class. He's too small to play linebacker, in my opinion, in most schemes, although it's what he played at the Senior Bowl. He wasn't invited to the combine, like I just said, but when you watch the tape, all he does is make plays. He's always by the ball. In a league where offenses are trying to spread defenses out and use more speed, Mapu can be a pretty counter to that in a nickel. He's explosive. He tackles and covers well. He played safety in college, so I think that's probably almost like a hybrid safety is where I think that he'll fit into the NFL. It's really weird. His 40 time has varied anywhere from a 4.58 to a 4.7. So I thought that was pretty interesting. He can give the defense an advantage in a big nickel formation simply because he's fast, but he also has some linebacker experience, so he can shed blocks. If a center or a guard gets a hold of him, he's in trouble. But he's got good start speed, and he closes quickly, and he bends at the waist really, really well. And that's one of the reasons why, he covers so well, is because he's fluid in his hips. So I don't think he's going to be, like I said, an every down kind of player in the NFL to start with. I would love to see him develop into that. I think he'd be a good ball hawking safety, but early on, definite special teams standout. And like I said, in teams when they want to run a big nickel, he's there.
So is it my turn to close this out for today?
Close it out. Bring it home.
So, I bring you here, and we're ironically both going with a safety for our final guy, an FCS guy for our final guy, Benny Snap III. And I actually just found out today that his father played in the NFL. I had no idea. So that actually took me for a loop, and I was looking him up just to get his exact height and weight and everything. I was like, Benny Snap II. Oh, he played in the NFL. Did not know that. So a little fun fact: Benny Snap III, son of a former NFL player. Now, I'm sure you haven't heard much about the Northern Iowa safety, which is a shame because he's really effing good. He held his own in the box when he was asked to play, and he has great eyes and IQ for getting to the ball. He's okay at dropping back into man coverage, but his specialty is playing a deeper zone. I have confidence with him back there. Now, I know the argument against him is FCS school, not FBS, and I get it. But when you watch him play, he has something to him. And it took me a bit to realize it. Then I remembered a player I got to see live that played in the FCS. Watching him, it took me back to a September evening, Montana State versus South Dakota State. And I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. watching Dallas Goedert play live, that was an NFL player playing against a lower league. And I'm sure you remember how much he took over that game.
Yeah, he destroyed the Bobcats.
He was dominant. I watched Bang snap. He didn't have as many dominant type plays as Dallas Goedert did. But watching him, it was clear. He maybe is the most athletic guy, but he thinks as an NFL level. And it's very clear after I found out his dad played in the league. He knows what's happening. He knows the plays. He's breaking it down. He's not the most athletic guy. Is he probably going to be a starting safety out of the gate? Probably not. I think he's something I'd grow into. But I'd put him in the box. I'd put him in the dime back role to start out because his eyes are good. He's very intelligent. And he knows how to go and wrap up players well. Which for a safety coming to FCS, that's a big question mark. I really like Benny Sapp III, and I put him here last on my list because he's the guy I have the most confidence in becoming something out of my entire list of players. So that's going to wrap us up for today. I hope you guys enjoyed our 10 sleepers. Like I said, we'll be back next week with guys who are day 1 and day 2 players that we just like. It could be a Will Anderson or it could be someone else we just have a second round grade on. There's a whole bunch of stuff we can go through. But we're going to talk about them all next week as I do 3 offense, 2 defense, and he does 2 offense, 3 defense. Come in and enjoy that.
I get to come home to the motherland.
Yeah, and I get to go to the fun side of the ball.
Defense is fun.
Let's never send that to a defensive player for my own safety. But I hope you all enjoy and have a fun time. We are officially, as of recording, 2 weeks away from the draft. Enjoy.